buffering. Wrong one. Wrong button. But I am happy to see you though. I celebrate you every day. Celebrate you all the time. All right. We are back live on the scene.
Good evening, and welcome to At the Helm with Kelly and Wayne.
You are?
I am Kelly.
I am?
A bit much to contend with sometimes, but he is Wayne.
I am Wayne. And excited to be here. I'm excited for our conversation this evening. Excited to get started. But we are glad to be back. Welcome everyone that is showing up and coming. And it's been a busy week.
As always.
A busy 2 weeks.
Yep.
Last year, this time, we were down in New Orleans at the Essence Festival.
Yay.
This year, we were virtually at the Essence Festival. So we were able
not quite the same.
Not quite the same, but it was still good. We were able to, for those who had Hulu, they were live streaming the concerts each night. And I would say that the concerts at the Essence Fest are not for the faint of heart. One of those, I think I fell asleep and woke up at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and they were still going on. And then I think you reminded me that they are an hour behind. So it was even, But even when we were down there, it was a bit much. My bedtime is a little bit earlier than 1 o'clock in the morning. Just a little bit.
That's a lot earlier.
But those nights we were on Bourbon Street and Canal Street at 2 o'clock in the morning. But it was fun. It was very fun. So looking forward to next week where we will be headed to the DR for a little bit of a relaxation.
Yep.
So looking forward to that. What else has been happening?
A lot, but I have like a pet peeve right now that I kind of want to talk about.
Oh, go ahead.
So, I don't know. Can you all see? Can y'all see? These are soap boxes. Not the kind of soapbox that I like to climb on, from time to time on myself. But these are actual soap boxes. Like, I got my soap out of here. So this is the last time I brought this soap. I don't know that I want you to even see the brand. You don't need to see the brand. Just notice like the different size of this box. Look how big this box is. And then this is my box that I opened this morning, and I'm like, it looks like I already used this soap. So this is how they're getting us, people. Just want you to know that I paid a little more for this little box. And I still have this box because it was in my overnight bag. It's just the box that I put in my overnight bag when we travel so I don't forget to bring my soap. But I opened this little thing and I was like, they charged me the same for this soap. And this is a huge difference. So it's just kind of my little pet peeve for
your soapbox for the day.
Get on my soapbox. Get on my actual soapbox for the day. They out here getting us. And we just letting it happen. They be acting up and we be letting them. All right, that's it.
You done off your soapbox?
I'm off my soapbox.
All right. So we might as well jump on into what we came this evening to talk about.
Absolutely.
So we have a dynamic. It's even hard to introduce.
Our panel for the evening?
Yes. I'm gonna let you do it. Put you on the spot.
Okay. So our first guest is going to be Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins. Ashley is a person who we met out here doing this social justice work. It is also one of her passions. She is the founder and head consultant for Ashley Gaddy Enterprises. We're actually going. I'm just going to bring her on, let her introduce herself to you all. But we met her like this is an organic relationship. She was on the panel. She was amazing. So of course, after it ended, I was like, I need to make my way down here to meet Ashley, and her name was familiar to me because of the work that her dad does. We in the same circles have seen Mr. Gaddy out here with his second chance alliance, the work that he does with people who are re-entering from being incarcerated. Again, he does amazing work. So I was like, this is like my little like niecey sister kind of here. So let me make my way down to Ashley. And Ashley is like my kind of person. Like she is knowledgeable, but she is approachable. If you are on her Facebook, you know she's also a little bit hood. There's a picture there's a picture that's on your Facebook where she is, recently Dr. Ashley Gaddy, and she was taking her graduation picture. So she got her little Dr. hood on, but she pulled down her lips and you just show you her gold front. So it's like a good balance.
That's
so,
right.
So first guest will be Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins. Let's welcome her.
Happy to be here.
All right. And then our next guest is none other than J. Dwayne Garnett. Again, another organic relationship that just kind of happens, and then people just kind of stick to you, and you are amazed at the work that they do. He does this amazing work in the diversity and inclusion realm. He is the founder and owner of Love is a Parable, who is out here showing us how to maneuver in these spaces with his value-based education. So I will, he's still new to this. He is the unofficial associate director, associate producer of At the Helm with Kelly and Wayne. He is responsible for bringing Dr. Ashley Gaddy to us tonight. So we will welcome J. Dwayne Garnett. Dr. Gaddy, we will go ahead and start with you. I know you are fresh off the Essence Festival experience, so I don't know if you want to share any of that. I know there was a little bit of controversy, but you can tell us, was this your first time there? Just tell me how that went, and just a little more about yourself, your organization.
Yeah. I'm so happy to be here. Hello, everybody. Dr. Ashley Gaddy Robbins, she, her pronouns. So I'm with you, Wayne. Let me tell you something, especially after just now having a baby a year ago, 10 o'clock max. Okay. So this was my first Essence Fest. And I really did enjoy myself. The community, the love, it's like a big hug. And I think that is something that I really needed in the moment, just because, again, I've been doing a lot in the past year. And so I just needed a kind of a space to just be. And that's what Essence Fest was. And we won tickets to the concert Friday night. So we go to the concert free Friday night.
Wow.
So, and then we already had.
That was the Lauryn Hill one, right?
That was the Lauryn Hill one. And so I was in the space in the Superdome the entire time. And then we were like, okay, it's time to dip. So then we already had tickets the second night. So I was up way past my bedtime 2 nights in a row.
They won't do it.
Like, whoa, but Missy Elliott was amazing. And
my gosh. So like Wayne said, we were able to stream that. I was absolutely amazed to the point where I, hit the rewind button and watched it again. And it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So I can only imagine what it was like to be in the space. She was absolutely amazing.
She was absolutely amazing. And one thing that I do like about Essence Fest is that it is accessible. Like, if you don't buy the concert tickets, the activities during the day are free. So you can go to the vendors, you can see the panels, you can meet these people, you can get information. And I love the accessibility of Essence Fest. And so I hadn't quite, because I had not attended before, I didn't know quite how it was. But to see how accessible it is really something. All you have to do is get to New Orleans. And again, I know that us also can be a lot for people. But once you do get there, you can have a full Essence Fest, without
Yes.
paying anything. And
It is a full experience, a full day experience.
yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So just a little bit about Ashley Gaddy Enterprises. It is a diversity, equity, inclusion consultancy. And I really there's the DEI content. DEI is what we say, diversity, equity, and inclusion content. But I focus more on the approach. And so my goal is to center humanity with the authentic approach. And so the way in which I'm talking to you now is the way in which I deliver my work.
Yep.
It's the way that I connect with audiences. So if you're familiar with the top 5 strengths, my top strength is relator. And so it is about the audience. On a consulting call, I will ask more about who the people are than the content. And that's something that I really cherish. And so it allows me, once the atmosphere is set, then the knowledge can come. Once the connection is there, then the people will listen. And so Ashley Gaddy Enterprises really focuses on making positive social change, dismantling and fighting against systems of power in order for the populations who are the most vulnerable to be liberated. And so that is a little bit about what Ashley Gaddy Enterprises does. And you're right, recently came off of getting the doctorate in philosophy and cultural studies, which really helps with my consultant work because it does focus on systems of power and it does focus on the ways in which structures are put in place for norms and culture to even exist. So it really does help me out in my work a lot as I work with organizations, corporate, nonprofit, government, and also individuals who just want to have time to kind of be guided through their own identity. So that's what I do. Happy to be here. And can I just say one last thing? Can I just say that Kelly and Wayne, y'all really are the people on the ground doing the work. And so I really want to affirm and highlight, because oftentimes those are the people that don't get recognized. Those are the people whose name may never hit the national stage. But trust me when I believe that y'all are the workers, and without you, resistance is not possible. So thank y'all for the work that y'all do on the ground.
Thank you for the
Bless you,
affirmation.
bless you, bless you. And your work is just inspirational. So I mean, it's it's reciprocal. To see you when we went to the Be Better Weight, to be on those panels, to see again just how you work, maneuver, and your authentic self, whether you are on here or sitting on the panel or afterwards in conversation, is is just inspiring to continue to do this. And it just gives you energy to say, you know what, it's more reason that we cannot quit, because there's others that are, that are continuing to do all of this work and do all of that. So thank you. But you drive a whole lot of that, and people like Jay and you and people who are doing, again, that this heavy lifting that a lot of people, don't want to do because it's challenging. And, sometimes it's uncomfortable. You have to rub people the wrong way sometimes, but, it's not us rubbing them the wrong way. It's the facts and really what's going on rubbing them the wrong way.
It's the truth.
And, so I was at a minister's conference one time, and this guy was doing a lecture. He was actually the president of the Lot Carrier Association, Dr. David Goatley. And he was like, I'm going to tell y'all before I get started, I don't have good aim, but every now and then, if something hits you, it's not intentional because I don't have good aim. But it's not intentional for you. It hit you because it was supposed to.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
So it does catch them.
Absolutely.
All right, Mr. Garnett, we're not going to leave you out there just
Oh
dangling in
no,
the wind. You
no.
in this dark room, come on in and tell us a little bit about J. Dwayne Garnett.
I
And
feel
then
like I shouldn't have to say anything. Like Dr. Robbins done did it, and then she complimented y'all. I'm like, I gotta say my bio and come up with a
follow suit.
compliment.
Follow suit.
But you
Yeah.
know what? I do feel like I'm amongst family, and I do want to agree with you guys. Like the very first day that I met Ashley, you know, and this is aside from her father, but just meeting her, she has her own identity and her own like aura that she brings, and it's something that if you haven't had a chance to meet her, when you feel it, you'll be like, I need to be in her gravitational pull because she's just a great person.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so even when we, you know, when we shook and jive, it's like I've known her my whole life, and I just met the chick. I was like, I don't know her. I do not know this woman.
But we cut up.
Right.
And the second day we met her, we tried to
Oh
put
my
her-
gosh. I was
Ashley,
like,
go over there and talk to the people from 1011. Go give them that interview.
she was like, we are really acting up, and I love it.
But I do want to just say, like, I think that that's very important. And one of the things I do appreciate about you, Wayne and Kelly, is the fact that, like Ashley said, y'all are on the ground. And I say this all the time because you do need foot soldiers. And yes, everybody can be a foot soldier, but everybody may not be good at that at the march on the ground. Some people may mess things up. And I just want to be honest with that. Like some people will cause a ruckus and not be effective. You are the first people. No. Kerwin, I know Kerwin too. You guys are effective at what you do, especially as a couple. I have never seen a couple who were foot soldiers, and the way that y'all be on stuff and doing stuff, I can't do it. But I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the wealth of knowledge because the knowledge that you provide helps me do my work a whole lot better. And kind of what you're saying, I found that love is a parable with the design of bringing people together through love, which is a philosophy that's based on the sacred box theory that's rooted in love, rooted in value-based education. Value-based education is designed to help people understand how values motivate and encourage the decisions that they make, how they see themselves, others, and the decisions that they make overall. And you never want to underestimate the role of values because people are getting laid off, people are being hurt, people are being shot and killed because we're treating the wrong diagnoses. A lot of times the root of the matter is the values and not these high-level things that we try to say it is. A lot of us spend too much time in the branches when we need to deal with the roots. So I do a lot of root work and helping people uncover what their true values are and show them how they are influencing decisions in their lives.
That's good.
Yes, very.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in a time where, you know, it's, you know, and we always hear people say, because we're in our moment, you know, we're living now. So we always hear people say that, you know, this time is, you know, things are worse or things are like they've never been before. But when you look back down through history, everyone had those same moments to be able to say, nothing's ever happened like this before. But so, you know, I was going to say, you know, almost more than ever when we see people vilified and, you know, dehumanized by, you know, the media and just everything that's on, you know, people, for them to be able to find value in who they are, regardless of where they are on the structure of life, is just crucial. Because when you feel good about yourself and you know, you love yourself and can feel like you can do some things and you can not only help you, but you can begin to help others. So, you know, just, you know, allowing people to understand that when I think daily our values are diminished, you know, just in things that we have to deal with all day on our jobs, everywhere, just always continues to be that.
So I'm just a little housekeeping. Like I can hear Wayne really good.
Oh.
I can't really hear Dr. Robbins or Mr. Garnett like that great in my ear. So I don't know. Is it me?
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
Do you hear him okay?
I mean, my ears ain't the best, so I thought it was just me.
We need to get the producer in here to fix this.
Oh, I mean, I turned the
Our
volume up,
engineer.
but I'm just gonna
And
hear
we
you.
hear y'all perfectly. We hear
Where's
y'all
our sound
wonderfully.
engineer?
I don't know.
We hear y'all great.
All right, then we will move on. So tonight we wanted to talk about equity in education or the lack thereof. And I know, like I said, that was the first where I first was introduced to Dr. Robbins' genius. And so we want to just like dive into, I mean, especially, so there's so many different, I have so many questions and then I don't even know what to ask. So I'm just gonna, so we know that we're fresh off of the Supreme Court's affirmative action decision in so the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, my alma mater. And I know that Dr. Ashley also went to the University of Chapel Hill in Wilmington.
Go here.
Was it Wilmington?
University of North Carolina, Wilmington. Yep.
Okay, yes. And so that was one of the schools. So the UNC Chapel Hill was one of the schools that was sued. So it was that specific school where the decision came down. That one and Harvard. And so when we talk about affirmative action, so people have the idea that people who don't belong in these spaces are given these, they're the benefactors of this affirmative action. So now I've gone, like I said, I went to UNC Chapel Hill, and I can tell you there was no affirmative action exam. Everybody got the same exam. If you're in the classroom, you're going to earn your spot there, or people are going to know that you don't belong. So just because you see us in these spaces doesn't necessarily mean that we don't belong in these spaces. So, but this starts way early in elementary. Mm-hmm. Where if you talk a certain way, then you're branded a certain way. It is our children who are suspended at a higher rate, not because they act bad or worse than anybody else. And I know as a parent, so we have 4 children who went through the Wake County Public Schools, and this activism didn't just start. So when my boy, I was called always to the school because we had one of them. We had one. I'm not even going to act like he wasn't. We had one.
He got it from his mama.
We had one. But when I went to the school to talk to the teacher about, his behaviors, like I literally had to step over a couple of kids. Like I'm talking about literally, they were laid out in the floor. Me and the teacher have to step, and she acted like she didn't see these other kids who didn't look like my son. But we're stepping over, and she might have called his mama. I don't know. I don't know if his mama was coming in next. But I'm just saying, there are certain things that some children are allowed to get away with, and it's called, it's typical development. Like this is what they do, how they grow up. Mm-hmm. But when it's us, it's a behavior problem. It's a discipline problem. So, Dr. Ashley, that was a long way to just throw this to you and say, what is it that you see happening, like I said, in early education with the disparities, either in discipline, how we're taught, how we're treated, how we're talked to? What is your work showing you in that area?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily do a lot of close work with K through 12 because God bless everyone who does. Okay. My expertise really lies at starting at 18. Higher education is kind of my focus. But a couple of things. One, I am a mother, right? And so we have 4 children, and 3 of them are in the Wake County public school system. But what I do study is I do study systems. I do study systems of power and systems of oppression. And I do study the ways in which race, skin color, ethnicity, nationality plays an effect on how people are viewed, how people are treated, and then how people are socialized, right? Mm-hmm. So once you know the systems, you can apply them almost anywhere, whether that be the preschool room or the college classroom. Systems of power are at play. So what's happening here is an ongoing socialization of, racial oppression. And this stems back where, far beyond we probably have for this podcast. But if you call it racism, if you call it colorism, whatever variation of white supremacy it is, right? It is the narrative that people who are Black, brown, dark skin, etc., are deemed are because they deviate from what is white, from what is light, then they are bad, they are criminal, they are ugly, they are fill in the blank. And there are various, acts, practices, theories, historical overviews. You can even ask my parents. We don't have to go back that far. You can ask the baby boomer generation. And there are absolutely examples that have shown us that if it is tied to Black, brown, dark, then it is automatically, because it has so long been permeated in our brains that is through right? Through the process of othering, then that is what actions and behaviors are going to come from that thought. Even if a teacher is not literally sitting at their desk saying, "Ooh, they're just so bad, I can't wait to get them." Socialization makes it unconscious, where your face is turned a little bit though. Your eyebrows raised a little bit though. You start going to one kid and that to another. You don't have to blatantly sit there and think these outrageous thoughts. Quite honestly, it's the eyebrow raise and the lack of belief that are more dangerous sometimes than these outright blatant effects, because the actions and behaviors can come from those more often. So now, instead of this big ordeal, we got 20 small ordeals, and that can really impact a child more than one big thing. So it really comes down to the socialization of oppression to Black, brown, and dark-skinned people.
And I think we need to be clear when you talk about the people who are raising the eyebrows. These are Black and white people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I said this on the panel. Racism is so big, so large. The institution of racism is so large that even the people who are oppressed by it perpetuate it.
Oh yeah.
Meaning it don't have to be just a white person who's looking at a Latina child or a Black child. It can be absolutely, I'll take from Abbott Elementary, Miss Brenda Howard, right? If you know the Brenda Howard character from Abbott Elementary, it could be Miss Brenda going, and she's the same color as the child, because the power is so large that these ideas of Black, brown, dark, etc., are perpetuated even by Black, brown, dark people. And that's why everyone has to be engaged in the process of dismantling it, because everyone's playing a part in it.
Yep. And
whether willingly, unwillingly, knowingly, unknowingly.
Absolutely.
Um,
and I think like you said, people get kind of just caught up and not even, sometimes realizing what's taking place. And sometimes we even, think, what, this is maybe something we need to do. And the whole time, this is very oppressive. You mentioned Abbott Elementary. There was an episode a couple of weeks ago that there was a private school in the area that were trying to get kids. And so, of course, two of the students, Miss Shirley Ralph and one of the other teachers was like, "We're not having this."
That's right.
And then, principal was like, "Maybe it's a good thing." But then when they found out one of the kids that were at the school got put out and was trying to come back to Abbott Elementary, then it kind of hit home of really what's going on.
That's right.
So it is sometimes just being in the midst of it, like you said, can be perpetuating that, and sometimes not even realize it.
That's right. And because a lot of us, if you are Black and brown, you're probably understanding race through your experiences, but a lot of us have not formally been sat down to actually spend time learning and talking about the structures and systems of the institution. So I teach a course at UNCW, interracial communication. And it is a predominantly white course because that's the layout of the classroom and of the campus. And at the end of the year, the handful of Black and brown students I do have be like, this class blew my mind. I thought I was just going to sit back, you know what I'm saying, and watch you teach other people about us. And I'm like, no, because you haven't sat down and been taught either.
That's right.
So for the people who are perpetuating these messages, they could just be perpetuating what they've always heard, what they've always known, because no one sat them down.
Mm-hmm. And
So
then
that's the work that I do. I'm trying to sit people down. I'm trying to sit people down long enough to really understand this thing so that we can, tackle it.
So, Mr. Garnett, so Dr. Robbins, she spoke about the system. So when we know what the systems are, we know that they're there. How do we then maneuver these systems? Like, so when she's talking about teaching your children, like that was never like a thing to me. And that, even that is a fine line about when to teach your children about race. Now you can be naive and not and think you're not going to teach them in the house. But when them little Black and brown bodies go out the door, somebody's going to teach them about race.
Mm-hmm.
So you may as well prepare them for it, equip them with the tools that they need. So when we talk about maneuvering these systems, Jay, what advice is it that you have for people who are raising children in this space so that they don't show up to Dr. Robbins' class with no self-reflection?
Whew, Dr. Robbins had me over here about shouting. I'm glad my look about to have me get my TikTok mic out. But I was about to throw it. But no, I think that here's the thing that I do want to highlight. No one service has it all figured out. And no one service is the final answer on anything. So the first thing is we must collectively operate in our realm of influence. I think a lot of us must understand, like, you may be effective in one area and may have minor gifts in another one, but we might need to lend that to somebody else who's even more effective. The problem that we're having, even when we're doing this work towards togetherness, is everyone is trying to be the lone savior versus being pillars and anchors in society. So one of the things that I do want to make sure that we understand, there is a difference in having knowledge of something and having awareness of something. So a lot of us are in a knowledge gathering space, but we lack awareness. So a lot of people can tell you what racism is, but they lack the awareness of what racism really is. Agreeing with what Dr. Robbins saying, racism is systemic, systematic, amorphic, and individual. A lot of us focus on our individual experiences. And because we focus solely on our individual experiences, we lack the understanding of how systemic and systematic racism happens and how that has pushed us into a space where it's very amorphic. We don't know what it is. It takes on different shapes. It looks different. It almost that's why most people who truly experience racism feel like they're going crazy. Because they're like, did this really, because of how strategic racism started out. Mm-hmm. So adding to that whole point is you have to check your values. Why is this so important? You can have knowledge of something, but your values can give you a blind eye to certain things. Like, for instance, being a good person versus a kind person. Those are totally value-led. And I agree with you. I have one of those kids that I have to sit routinely in the principal's office. She cute as pie, but that thing will tear down a school. So I don't even come there saying, like, my child would never. I'm like, I know what she did, but at the same time, we have to talk about those hidden values that are influencing decisions. And so a lot of times when people say things like respect, what is respect? If my child is being disrespectful, I need for you to articulate what disrespect is to you, because disrespect to you may not be disrespect to me. Prime example, I instill my children self-advocacy. You may look at that as talking back, but if they're advocating for their rights, they're going to have to talk back to you. That's not disrespect. You just wasn't prepared for a child to advocate for themselves, and I'm going to stand flat-footed on that. So one of the things is we have to check as professionals, what values are we bringing to this profession? Meaning you might be a stellar teacher, but your values and how you were raised, the things that you cherish the most may be influencing how you interact with certain people. And I love what Dr. Robbins said about the fact that we can be victims of racism, but also perpetuate those habits and have same race discrimination and not realize it and call it being a modern student. A lot of people didn't realize the biggest problem that the Black community had with Monique making a statement about bonnets is not that it was her preference that Blacks should not wear bonnets. It was her preference that was adjacent to respectability. In politics, that's what the problem is. When you say dress like the people of old were trying to get by. And they figured if I do anything that's more white adjacent, it will open up doors for me. You know what I mean? So there are a lot of conversations that we're not having, and there's levels to this. So we need some people who can have that umbrella conversation, but we do need some other people that can have granular conversations to get to the weeds and the roots of the matter. And that's where awareness comes into play. We got a lot of knowledge. People have done research out the wazoo and can give you reports all day. But let's interpret that and let's make it palatable to a way that it can give us practical life skills to dismantle the very thing that has been constructed. Check the values. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and that's good.
Drop your little TikTok mic. drop it.
And so Jay just said something when he says we have the data. Don't do no more research. We have the data. We have enough numbers. We know that, when it comes to disparities across the board, if we're talking about infant mortality, if we're talking about education, if we're talking about housing, if we're talking about incarceration, we have the data that susses out that Black and brown people are indiscriminate, like in numbers that don't even make sense. When we're 13% of the population, we're 50-60% of these low numbers. And so, I mean, we're most affected by these things. And so in education, Dr. Robbins, what advice, like what is it that we can do? And we're talking to, like, us, we don't have, like, our children have gone through the system. And it's funny that Dr. Chavis was the moderator that day, because Dr. Chavis was one of those offices, Jay, that we were sitting in talking about Wayne's son. Like, so Dr. Chavis, like, he knows when he starts, like, yeah.
Yeah, he was the principal.
But the thing is, he still knows our son's name.
Yeah.
He knows our son's name. He knew who we were, because we're gonna be them. To the point where it almost became an arrest situation, because I came to see the teacher. And I told her I was coming to see her. Who taking me to the classroom? Just let me know that.
So
who's taking me to just let me know who taking me to the classroom.
And so one after another came out the office. So every time somebody would come out the office and say, "Can I help you? Are you going to take me to that classroom? I can't do that. Then you can't help me." And then the next person will come out the classroom. "Can I help you, member? Or can you take me to that classroom?" "Nope." "Then you can't help me." Next. And so it was a line of people.
And then the police officer showed up.
And I was like, "Ooh."
But you know what? We have been to that school so much. I knew, what was her name? I forget now.
Miss Dooley.
Officer Dooley.
Yep.
Officer Dooley know me. I know Officer Dooley. So I'm here because the lady called me about my son. I told her I was coming to talk to her about it. But now she act like she don't want me in her classroom. So then there was a different conversation that was had. I was like, "Listen, it's obvious that you don't like the big brown boys. We're here at the end of the year. I came here in the spirit of cooperation because I want my son to do well, and I want your classroom to be in control. But that's not what you chose violence today. You sent the police here. So we are on the other side of this. but I now have grandchildren that are going through it. So, or people who may not even have children anyway. What I think we're all responsible for our village. These are still our children. They are still being suspended, expelled at rates that don't make any sense. And then these are, the children who then we say, go get a good job, go to school. But these people, I think, are sometimes intentionally wanting them to be in a system where the stereotypes and the data say they should be.
Ooh.
So what is it then that we what is it that we as a village, Sonia Sanchez, how does it free us and how does it free the village? What is it that we can do to bring the village in? People who don't
Jay, go ahead. Come on, say it. Because you had it. It is there.
It's just when she said these numbers. And it bothers me because at that same criminal justice Better Wake meeting that we were at, when the guy talked about the transition of he was advocating for mental health, when he said 100% of the students that were arrested all had mental health diagnoses. We need to be clear that we are not substituting oppression. If 100%, there is never 100% of anything when it comes to dealing with humans, because humans are fluid. So you mean to tell me, and plus when they changed the way that they diagnose, especially in mental health, they changed the way that they diagnose. I want to say when they came out with the with version 5, how can you in one assessment say that a child has ODD when ODD, oppositionally defiant, is over a period of time? You need to do an assessment over a period of time. So how can one assessment tell you that a child has ODD? So the thing is, if you're sitting there diagnosing people off of one behavior, but meaning I have a bad day, you have a bad day. So you mean to tell me if this child who doesn't know how to regulate their emotions have a bad day on a Wednesday, on Thursday they diagnosed with something?
And the diagnosis is coming from another person who's overworked, who's got 10 schools, because we don't get the funding that we need for our schools. So even that is flawed.
And there's no value-based assessment on how you interpret certain behaviors. Like, what do we call exaggerated behaviors or extreme behaviors? It is commonly known that people that are of the Black and brown communities are more expressive in communication. I remember, I work in higher ed too, Ashley. I interviewed for a position in McAllen, Texas. I never forget this. And it's 90% Hispanic. And they said, what will be your most important way to communicate with people when there is a communication barrier? And I said, well, I can get an interpreter, do all of those things. I can get an interpreter. I make sure that I have stuff there, that we're equitable and all of that. And they said, no. If you're going to be working with the Hispanic population, you need to learn to use your hands and body language. When they don't understand, they read your body. And so how are you using your hands and how are you doing that? So putting your hands away. And this wasn't being like, they were like, no, they're very expressive. So when they're speaking to you, they will use their hands. So you will have to learn to use your hands. And I'm like, I'm Black. I know that. I use my hands all the time. But here's the thing, though. They were showing appreciation, saying there are other ways to communicate when verbal is at a lack. And I think that a lot of us try to make everything, because in America, there is no official language. I keep telling people that there is standardized language that a state or a group of states got together and said, this is what it's going to be. And so what we're trying to do is make people align with a standardized version, which is based on hidden values. And then we're going to have that as the running meter. And we need to check that. People are fluid and they have a right to express and have an identity outside of the box that we're trying to put them in. So if a village want to stand up, the village needs to start embracing its individuality and advocate for the individuality and stop the things that further oppress and stop the oppression Olympics. Your struggle ain't greater than mine. I don't want to struggle, period.
Right.
I pass. You can have all my struggle. You can have all my struggle, and I can get it to you. Let's get out of the struggle Olympics, and let's just start saying nobody should be going through stuff.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, you're saying so much because how I was going to answer that question is tied to your response, Jay. Is it's more than just the theories and the terminologies. What I think educators and administrators need to do is you need to get in tune with the culture.
Mm.
Okay. Because what you're talking about too, when you talked about when I teach, when I use and talk about respect, the way that I say it is it's culturally bound. What might be respect in my culture may not be respect in your culture.
That's right.
But if you're not even in tune, you know what I'm saying? If you don't even have a desire to be in tune with the cultures that your students are coming from, then that's where you're really missing. You're missing the practice. You're missing the gestures. You're missing you'll be able to your ears will be able to kind of keen in a little bit. You're like, you know what? Y'all playing. I know that y'all playing. That's afraid. That the way when you say it like that, that means you playing. When you say it like that, that means you serious. When you look like that, I know you not playing. You know what I'm saying? And it's not to say that you're going to know everything. But if you don't even have a desire to be in tune with the culture of where your students are coming from, one of the aspects that as I train on is surround yourselves in the communities of where your people are. It may not be your identity, but you have to care enough to be in tune with the communities of your people. And so that is what I think is lacking the most. Not a definition on bias, not a timeline from 1860 so and so up until today, right? That's not what's going to jump in when a student is in front of you, right? And that's why it's important to center humanity and see the person. Because if you just hit me with terminologies and theories, then I know you're looking right past me. You looking straight into you looking at a book. You trying to remember what slide that was in the 2-hour training you sat in. That's not what I need. And so that is my charge to educators, to administrators, to staff, is to really get in tune and get connected to the culture. If you don't know the history and the story of Southside Raleigh, if you only go into one certain place that's already been gentrified, then don't talk to me about kids on the Southside of Raleigh at school.
There you go.
You see what I'm
That's
saying?
good.
Yeah.
So you need to be in tune. If you're gonna build the house and move in there,
That's right.
so that you can walk your kids to school, then you need to be mindful of the housing area right across the street from you and the people who are in the community, and that their kids are also the kids that may be going to school right alongside yours. You need to get in tune. Parents as well, especially as Raleigh is transforming.
And that's so true, because that same school, look, my kids went to the same school that Kelly and Wayne talking about. And one of the things that I told the principal there, who happens to be a Black guy, and I told him, I said, you guys need DEI training, and you need conflict resolution and conflict navigation training, because you don't know how to do it. And most people, even the Black community, struggle with understanding that we need DEI too. My South ain't like y'all South. My Georgia South is different from y'all North Carolina South. And there is a lot and those differences can cause a lot of friction if they're not treated. It's just like with my children. My children was learning Hebrew, Greek, and they were learning African Creole. So when you say certain things to them, the way that they interpret it is totally different, because they're going through 3 and 4 different language groups. But because you lack understanding, you just see a Black person and not realize that, guess what? Black can be exotic too. And we don't have these conversations enough, because what we confuse, race doesn't replace ethnicity. Race is a classification that we created over here to put people in certain groups.
That's right.
But it doesn't diminish ethnicity. So you have to learn about ethnicity if you're going to move the meter forward. And people, this is my biggest thing. You got to stop playing both sides. Either you're going to be anti-racist or not.
And I think when you said that the principal there is a black guy, I think sometimes that may be the biggest disadvantage when we talk about people who are oppressed, then doing the oppressing, because they're not always comfortable. And we've seen evidence where they have tried to bring in DEI training, and the next thing you know, they don't have a job because depending on what school they're at. So again, they probably know that they need DEI training, but they also know that they need this check that's coming, however often the school system pays them. And so there's this fine balance, because you have to take care of your family. You still got to eat. You still got to have somewhere to live, but at the detriment of who? The most vulnerable, these most vulnerable children. And so you are, you can talk to me like on the side about, yeah, we know, but it's never going to leave this room, and that's not helpful.
No.
That's not helpful at all.
And that's why we're talking about the difference between knowledge and awareness. You don't have to call something DEI to have a DEI training. It's called humanity. Seeing the human in a person is the best DEI training that you can ever provide. Seeing the differences, seeing the unique, and having appreciation about that. We don't have to label it. The fact that you're labeling it lets me know you're the wrong person in it. And to be honest, because you're mislabeling it, you do need to lose your job, because you should know your community. Ashley just said that. Know the community that you're a part of. If I am a part of a community that has an aversion to terms like DEI, why would I force DEI down their throat knowing that it's going to have an adverse effect? You deserve to lose your job for that. You have to start looking at the human side of things and just start looking at humanity. We don't need a label for that. We don't need a check in a box for that. I'm sorry. I'm off my soapbox.
We had a couple soapboxes and hold soapboxes up. There they go. There they
That
go.
thing's flat if I was on it.
But I think that's where, where parents, advocates, activists, whatever they want to be labeled, is where that role comes in, to where it is a principal that may be, fearful, or maybe being held down and not being able to do what they're supposed to do, to where that community has to come together and that village has to come together and make enough noise and show up and be present enough and say, now there is a group that is sensitive to the culture of this community. Now here is a group that is sees the value in these kids that are not being seen by this school or by this community, by this whatever. And unfortunately, sometimes that has to be forced, and it's a shame that we have to force people to do what's right. And that through history, people have had to march and fight and force people to be morally, to make moral decisions. And where we just say, clearly everybody knows this is wrong. It's two left shoes, but they're not going to do anything about it until there is, some opposition, or there's some pushback, or there's some repercussions. And it's just unfortunate that we still are continuing to have to, do this still do this now.
Yeah. What I will say that I'm starting to see in my own personal experience, and then kind of just being around my age group, now that millennials are now becoming the parents of school age children, with Gen Z and Gen Alpha being in schools, I think that there's starting to become a shift and an uprising of vocality, right? So not only is the child able to now have this knowledge and awareness, they are able to vocalize it. They're able to stand on their values, much like you said with your daughter, Jay. But now the parents that are coming to the school also have, more knowledge, more awareness, more practice and ways in which to get messages across They know they're in tune. They don't went to therapy. They're in tune with who they are. They know how to articulate it to other people, right? And so you're going to have to really explain to me why you made this decision about my child.
Oh, yeah.
Because now I'm not coming. We are at a higher probability. First of all, shout out to our ancestors, shout out to all the people before us, right? Because they allowed us to not have to be in a place where we're so busy working all of the jobs that we don't have enough time to pay attention. So without them, without their 2-3 jobs, we wouldn't be able to be in a place that says, I can meet you at 2:00 in the middle of the day because I'm available, because I work from home, right? So shout out to the ancestors. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is, now that we're shifting, right? I have the time, I got the energy, I got the know-how, I have the availability. So now you're gonna have to really break it down for me, teacher, administrator, staff person, other parent. Because now you're not talking to my mama and my mama's mama, who may have been so busy that they didn't have time to understand because they had to allow us to eat. So there's a new parent, there's a new set of parents, and there's a new set of students coming into these schools. And I do believe what you're talking about, that there's going to be an awareness shift, hopefully, and hopefully you don't have to force. Maybe you do have to force, because for different reasons in different ways. You're going to have to force because now we know how to call it out.
That's right.
We're going to have to force, because now it's my 7-year-old telling you about Juneteenth. Okay. It's my 8-year-old telling you I'm not doing Christopher Columbus.
There you go.
Okay. He didn't sail no ocean blue in 1492 to go nowhere. And so because now my 8-year-old can say that and understands why, that's going to shake some teachers up a bit, instead of just coming home singing your little Christopher Columbus song.
That's right.
And I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we're going to take this last few minutes, wind this up. So Jay, we're going to have you each give us your parting thoughts and tell us where we can follow you, how we can support you in all of your endeavors. So both you go first, and then Dr. Robbins will follow with the same.
First, how do you stay connected is Google. Let me stop. But follow everything that's Love is a Parable. We made it very simple to you. You can go to loveisaparable.com, which is the simplest way, and just scroll to the bottom, and you can see all of our social media footprint, and you can like, subscribe, and follow there. For those who are dealing with issues and challenges on ways to navigate through conflict, or you're looking where you keep hitting these glass ceilings as it relates to change, why don't you partner with Love is a Parable? Because it may not be a policy issue. It may not be a bad hire. It may just be a value issue that you can't see. And that's why you want to partner with an organization like us that can really get those things done. We have actually a whole advisory committee that is a team of experts that specialize in certain areas. So when we come to you guys, we're coming to you guys with not only my over 20 years of experience in higher ed and mental and behavioral health, but you also are coming with a legacy of experts who also are very superior in their field and know a thing or two about what they're talking about. So when in doubt, don't try to just fumble through. Partner with some people that can really help impact change, like Love is a Parable.
And Love is a Parable will change your life.
Oh, I believe it.
Y'all better read your books too. Read your books. I'm joking.
Rain don't even know about it yet. I haven't even had time to tell him, but I'll tell him.
Okay.
That's so great. So if you are interested in partnering or connecting, whether that be guidance and advisory and consulting, because you really just want to take the time to have someone to ask questions with or be guided and have advice, or all the way up to, training workshops and strategy and assessment work, really kind of getting down to the inside of the organization. And what my professional work also is in people and culture. And so I served in senior leadership roles with people and culture, which is not HR. And I think that that's what I really like to emphasize, is the people and culture of organizations. You can go to my website, ashleygaddyenterprises.com. I am also Ashley Gaddy Enterprises on Facebook and Instagram. And then from there, there's the thread. Okay, so I'm trying to get used to all of these social platforms. So I'm up and coming in the social media world. So I will have a TikTok and a YouTube and all of those soon. And I'll just end with saying, be on the lookout for the segments, my Dr. Ama segment. So my children call me Ama. And I will be showing videos of how you can talk to your children about conversations that like these that we just had. So be on the lookout for my Dr. Ama segment.
That's awesome. So my grandchildren call me Ama. I have a friend who's from Sri Lanka, and that's
okay, great. Yeah. The friend or person who told me is from Southeast Asia, and she kind of introduced me to the title and concept of Ama. So yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, we thank you both for joining us, taking the time to enlighten and empower us. You said that we were foot soldiers. We are now ready to take it to the streets. Like, what school is first?
And we're going to
Who's going to get this work first? Which school?
So there will be a part 2 to this. Just to give y'all a heads up. We don't know. It's going to be soon because there's more we have to unpack.
Sure.
Through this. Because this whole system of private school, public school, just all of that, I think would be a wonderful conversation for y'all to share in, and just, all of the things that have taken place over the last couple of years and what are continuing, and how, they're just trying to take over our school boards and take over, and how we need to make sure that we don't allow them to do that. And we do that at the voting booth. So there's the whole part 2 is coming. Part 2 is coming. So we'll let what's the title? Executive producer. What?
He's our associate producer.
Associate producer. Associate. Yeah.
Of At the Helm Productions.
Okay. Come on, production.
And when we join,
But I think to your point though, there needs to be an education component on education. Meaning we talk about education, but which part of education are we talking about? Are we talking about the educational system? Or are we talking about the education? Are we talking about the educators? But a lot of times there needs to be education on education. So I definitely agree with you. So like a lot of people don't understand, like there's a difference between having the right to vote and understanding your right to vote.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So we got to break that down, because we think people understand and they do not understand. They don't understand a lot of that stuff, and it's just assumptive thinking that they do. But we definitely got to do education on education so we can bridge the gap. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. So as our associate producer, when we come together, we are now love at the helm.
Come on, that's so good. Love it
together. Well, thank y'all so much again. Enjoyed y'all, and thank you so much. And again, we will figure out when this part 2 is going to be. Again, for everyone out here, please find Dr. Robinson. Find
Robbins.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Robbins. I'm sorry. Find Dr. Robbins. Find Jada Wayne Garnett. Find them on their places. Support them. Reach out to them. Utilize all of their talents and their gifts, and for what they bring. So for both of y'all coming on, we are grateful. And with that, we will see everyone in 2 weeks.
Bye, y'all. Thanks for having me.
All right. There you go, Jay. Yeah. Watch out. Getting fancy with it. All right. I think we're still like the music. Me and Jay like the music. Associate producer said, let it keep playing. I see it. Cut it. He the associate producer. I'm the executive producer. Me and him.
She like, I'm the executive director.
Right. I'm about to unplug everything.
All right, bye.
All right.
Good night.